going on, everyone? This is Lucas Ross Sports, Lucas Ross, your commentator, and we're back with another video on this channel, and it's now time to take a look at the top 10 coaches that I think will be on the hot seat or approaching that hot seat. This is a video topic that I came up with, and I thought I would do a top 10 coaches that I think will be on the hot seat or approaching that hot seat, and this is just something new that I'm trying to come up with this channel, so if you want more top 10 videos, I'm willing to do that for you guys and stuff. So this top 10 coaches on the hot seat, you're going to see some coaches that I think will be on the hot seat or approaching that hot seat into 2022. Some of them could lose their job. Some of them could not lose their job in the later part of the season or early part of the season. But the 10 coaches that you're going to see on this list, the 6 through 10 coaches I think will still have their jobs safely, by the end of the year, and then the coaches from 1 through 5 will be obviously on the hot seat entering the 2022 season. So let's get right into it here with my top 10 coaches on the hot seat. We start with number 10, and that's Eli Drinkwitz of Missouri. I think he is pretty safe for right now. If you look at his first 2 seasons, went 5-5 in his first year, then 6-7 last year. To be honest, Missouri, I just haven't really seen them perform pretty well. I have not seen Missouri have their best game against a, quality SEC team. I have not seen have their best games against non-conference teams as well. And if you look at Eli Drinkwitz's record, he's 11-12 there at Missouri, 8-10 in the conference, and they went 6-7 last year. They had one of the worst defenses in the country last year. One of the worst defenses overall in the SEC. I'm not saying Missouri's terrible this year. I'm saying they're probably just not going to have a winning season. If Eli Drinkwitz doesn't have a winning season, let's say if they go maybe 4-8, I think he probably does get fired or maybe approaches the hot seat. But if he has a 6-6 year, I could still see him being on that hot seat. But if he has a winning year, they'll give him a contract. I think he is pretty safe though for right now. So I'm not really too concerned about, Eli Drinkwitz here, to be fired. So, I think he'll be safe for right now. Let's go to number 9 now, and that's Bryan Harsin of Auburn. I think he is not on the hot seat, but people have been eyeing on him over the offseason. There's just been off-the-field issues. There's some things going on with that university. And let's be honest, Auburn went 6-7 in his first year. There were some times where they fell apart. There were some times where they had their ups and stuff. But Bryan Harsin, I think, is okay for right now. If he has a winning season, I think they'll really, start to grow a little bit with him. But if he has a losing season, he could definitely already be on the hot seat entering, the 2023 season next year. But it's just about this year. It's just about this year. If they can get good quarterback play, I think this team is still capable of, going to a bowl game. I'm pretty high on the Auburn Tigers, but the schedule is pretty tough. Let's be honest, the schedule is tough for this upcoming season for this Auburn team. It's going to be pretty tough if Bryan Harsin can, save his job or anything like that. But people are pretty much, I think Auburn fans want him to go, but it's really too early to think about that. But I think he is, definitely, approaching the hot seat probably. But, he's not quite on the hot seat just yet, but he's really close to that. But we go to number 8 now, and that's Scott Satterfield of Louisville. And you're probably wondering, why is he on the hot seat? He had a winning season last year. Well, it's just been the, teams over the years that they had. Louisville, they went 4-7 in 2020. And, they went 8-5 in his first year. That was pretty good considering, they just haven't had good quarterback play. Let's be honest, they haven't had good quarterback play. I'm not saying he's on the hot seat. I'm saying he's probably just going to be approaching that hot seat. If he does have a winning season this year, he's probably definitely out of that picture. He's probably definitely out of the hot seat. But you look at his years at Louisville, he's 18-19 over there and 12-14 overall in the conference. Last year they went 6-7, lost their bowl game. I think Louisville's going to have a great season. I think Louisville will be a better team this season. If they don't have a good season, Scott Satterfield probably will be definitely approaching that hot seat. He's probably going to be there for a while, but I think he'll probably stay with Louisville. It depends if he stays, but I think Louisville is capable of, having a good season. They have a lot of production coming back, so they should be really good. We go to number 7 now, and that's Herm Edwards of Arizona State. You look at his years at Arizona State, he's 25-18 and 17-14. It's not just the overall record. There's just been some off-the-field issues as well for Arizona State and on-the-field issues. Yes, they went 8-5 last year, but they're going to lose a lot of production on that side of the ball. Still pretty high on the Arizona State, though. I think this is a team that you don't want to count out in this one as well. I think Herm Edwards is pretty safe, though, for right now. If he has a losing season, I think he's probably on the hot seat. But if he has a bad season, he's probably going to get fired at the end of the year because they had some off-the-field issues as well. I think Herm Edwards is pretty safe right now. I think he's pretty good for right now, so I'm saying he's at number 7. We go to number 6 now, and that's David Shaw of Stanford. And you're probably wondering, why is he on the hot seat? Well, Stanford just hasn't been good in the last few years. Let's be honest, they haven't had a winning season for a long time. Yes, David Shaw's been there for so many years. He's 93-45 there and 64-31 in the conference. But there's just been inconsistent play time. There's just been inconsistent, playing on the team. Last year they didn't have a good season either. They went 3-9 last year. I mean, he was probably approaching that hot seat, but I think he's gone, up a little bit. I think he's still, going to have a good season. I think Stanford will turn it around this year. If they ended up having a terrible season, I think David Shaw could lose his job. I don't think he's quite on the hot seat yet, but he's really approaching that, hot seat. But I think he does have a winning season this year and leads this team to the Pac-12 championship. Pretty high on the Stanford Cardinal there this year, and I think this team has what it takes to have a really good season. Let's go to number 5 now, and these are the coaches that I think are definitely on the hot seat entering 2022. We'd start with number 5, and that is Mike Norvell of Florida State. I think he's definitely on the hot seat. You look at his years so far at Florida State, they went 3-6 in his first year. They went 5-7 last year. Remember they lost to Jacksonville State, and remember they started 0-4, last year. That was one of the worst records that I've ever seen in Florida State history. I think they turn it around this year, but if he doesn't have a good season, I think Mike Norvell probably is fired at the end of the season. If he can have a good season this season, I think he'll be probably a contract extension, but right now he's 8-13 down at Florida State, 6-10 in the conference. It's just not been that good overall, in his first, few seasons. And it's just been an up and down. Let's be honest. If they have a terrible season this year, I think Mike Norvell could probably just lose his job. It's just been a lot of inconsistency on the field. But let's go to number 4 now, and that is Karl Dorrell of Colorado. I think he is number 4 on this list. I would have put Mike Norvell here perhaps, but I think he's probably got a bad record than Mike Norvell. But Karl Dorrell, there's been some off the field issues as well. You look at his years at Colorado, he's 8-10 and 6-7 overall in the conference. He went 4-8 last year. I mean, 4-8. I was really high on this Colorado team. People expected this team to be a lot better and maybe be a contention in the Pac-12. But this team right here has a long way to go. If they end up having a terrible season, I think Karl Dorrell will be fired. And I'm not really high on this Colorado team. They lose a lot of production, on defense. And it's just going to come down. It's just going to come down to that offense. It's going to come down to that offense to score some points, but it also is going to come down to that defense. But there's just been some off the field issues as well. So I'm expecting Karl Dorrell, probably to get fired at the end of the year, but you never know. So I think he is number 4 on this list. We go to number 3 now, and that's Geoff Collins of Georgia Tech. You look at his years, he's 9-25 overall, 7-18 overall, but 3-9 last year. Couple wins in the ACC last year, which is pretty promising, but you look at his years, it's just been inconsistent. Let's be honest, Georgia Tech has not been good in the last few years either. If Georgia Tech ends up having a bad season this year, I think Geoff Collins could be fired at the end of the year. I'm not saying he's a terrible coach. There's just been a lot of inconsistent playing by this Georgia Tech team, and it's just going to take a long time to really rebuild this program as well. So I'm expecting Geoff Collins to do a lot better this year, but I'm just not really high on the Yellow Jackets. And they also get a tough schedule every single year. You have to play Ole Miss out of the non-conference. That's going to be tough. You have to play Clemson, Georgia as well, and that's just really a brutal stretch in its schedule. But I think Geoff Collins is definitely on the hot seat. We go to number 2 now, and it's Dino Babers of Syracuse. I think he is definitely on the hot seat. Went 5-7 last year, improved from that 2020 season, but this team is just, it's a tough one to call. Let's be honest. I mean, I would have gone with Geoff Collins here at number 2, but I think Dino Babers is definitely on the hot seat. 29-43 down there, 15-35 in the conference. He just, remember they had that winning season. They went 10-3 overall. They really had a good season, but things have just been falling apart for this Syracuse team over the last few years. But I think Dino Babers is definitely on the hot seat. If they end up having a terrible season, he's probably definitely going to be fired at the end of the year. But if they end up having a good season, I think he has what it takes to still stay down there. And also, I think this team is got a lot of production coming back, but they have a tough schedule this season as well. So I think Dino Babers is at number 2. We got to go to number 1, and I'm pretty sure you guys know who number 1 on this list is, and that's who it is, Scott Frost of Nebraska. I think he is definitely on the hot seat this season. I don't know if he was on the hot seat last year, but I think he was pretty close. I mean, I'm kind of surprised they gave him another year. I mean, Nebraska had all those close games last year, close losses last year. I think this team is better this season. If Nebraska does have a winning season, Scott Frost saves his job, but if he ends up having a bad year, I think Scott Frost is gone. So, I mean, if you look at his years that he's been there at Nebraska, he's 15-29, 15-35 in the conference. They went 3-9 last year. I think Nebraska has a better season this year. If they don't, I mean, Scott Frost probably will be gone. And they do play Saturday against Northwestern. That's going to be a good one. And I just can't wait for the college football season to start when it comes around. So that concludes my top 10 coaches that I think will be on the hot seat. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think Nebraska, though, I think Scott Frost is definitely number 1 on this list. And then, of course, it goes from Dino Babers as well. But that concludes my video for today. Stay tuned here for more on Lucas Ross Sports.